happiness. Happiness. We are going to talk to each other about happiness. And our guide is the monk of the 1600s, Brother Lawrence. He had singular sagacity. Educated not beyond reading and writing. He was the perfect intuitive. Yeah.
In a penetration far surpassing my expectations. A man of affairs capable of giving
Penetration
wise and safe
far beyond my expectations. Brother Lawrence.
Got down a good deal of the matter.
1600s in Paris. A monk.
With a capital C. Excuse me. Got down a good deal of the matter of the conversations in Brother Lawrence's own terse, economical sentences.
Terse, economical sentences.
And there are extra 16 letters, all but 3.
And he didn't write books. There's only about 16 letters.
In the Carmelite order. And that ends
And some memos and some notes. And he always felt inferior when he wrote down the great things that God told him. He couldn't live up to the greatness of the things that God told him. He always felt inferior and he tore them up, threw them away.
89. Exhibiting in general the same directness.
That's right, directness. Directly to.
From this work of writing,
Nothing in between you and God. Directly to God. Straight to the source. Straight to the original. No copies.
at times, efforts to, quote, commit his thoughts to paper, unquote. Usually he tore up the compositions when he was inferior. How inferior they were to the inspiration he had from God. I can understand that.
How inferior his writing was to the inspiration he had from God.
This is a quote, lacking God's greatness and goodness, unquote.
Lacking God's greatness and goodness.
Of maxims, capital M,
Maxims.
was found among his letters after his death. Okay, we're on page 290.
This book we're reading from
With God, Sheldon Cheney.
is Men Who Have Walked with God by Sheldon Cheney, published in 1945,
Recommended it to
World War II,
high school.
by Knopf.
3 seniors who are going to have their 45th high school reunion.
Are you feeling the greatness and the goodness of God?
High school reunion, June 7th and 8th.
With whom do you spend the most time? Do you spend the most time with the highest class, the first class,
Established a rare balance of humility and confidence,
or the first
of
class?
self-giving and independence.
Brother Lawrence established a rare mixture of humility and confidence. And it's true. It's true. At the same time that God gives you confidence, God gives you humility. Well, what does humility mean, really? Does it mean obsequiousness? Does it mean servile? Does it mean fulsome? F-U-L-S-O-M-E? Does it mean that? I'm not sure about humility. Will you tell me about humility? Confidence, we're certainly sure about that. when we feel this electromagnetic radiation of the heat and the light right now, here on October 5th, 6th, we are confident. We are confident that we're in the care of ingenuity, ready invention. We're in the care of the magnificent creation of our God.
Insisted upon total renunciation and surrender to God's will.
For you and I, for you and me, God's will is happiness. We surrender entirely to happiness. Does it make me unhappy that I loaned $2,500 to a woman who was homeless with a son, a 19-year-old son who has 7 guinea pigs, and a woman who has 2 dogs that she loves and 12 cats that she befriended? And she was called to court, and she's told to be out in 72 hours. Out onto the street, out onto this tree belt. And the sheriff was coming on the 30th. Does it make me happy that I loaned that $2,500 in expectation of having it returned, but now it looks very doubtful that it's going to return? Am I unhappy? I can't say that I am. How can you stand there and see somebody go homeless? Renunciation. Did I renounce $2,500? He insisted upon total renunciation. Let's do a minute of renunciation. Well, let's for 1 minute, you and I, renunciate. Renounce. I don't have a watch. But let's go. 5, 4, 3, 2. This is a minute of no self. This is a minute of no desires. This is a minute of no cravings. My TV audience and myself, we are together on this. It is a minute of renunciation. We don't want anything. We don't ask for anything. We don't crave anything. It's a pure minute of happiness. A minute of appreciating the fact that you have given us, God, everything that we can be given. There's no more that you can give us. This is a minute of happiness. 60 seconds of no self, no ego, no desire, no egotism. This is a minute of pure renunciation. And what does it bring? It brings serenity. It brings exuberance. It brings elucidation. Elucidation. How's that? A minute of no self. A minute of purification. See? We can do that. Was that a minute, by the way? See, we can do that. What's fun? I'll tell you again who Brother Lawrence was. He was a monk who lived in the 1600s. in Paris. And he was a servant in the kitchen of the monastery. And he knew the presence of God. He as much was in the presence of God amidst the clatter and clang of the kitchen as he was before the altar. And you and I can do that. That minute that we just had together, that pure minute before God, we can do any time. Can we carry the renunciation any further? I don't think so. I think we just had the supreme moment of renunciation. I think these chats that you and I have about happiness are pure renunciation. He insisted upon total renunciation and surrender to God's will. And upon the presence of God. And now, as we have said so many times,
we must distrust our own strengths utterly and commit ourselves.
We must distrust our own strengths and entrust ourselves to God.
But he walked with a high head.
He walked with a high head,
dignity. To God he said in effect, quote, I have put myself in your keeping.
I have put myself in your keeping.
And so everything will be all right.
It is your business I am about, so everything will be all right. It is God's business I am about. I have put myself in your keeping, so everything will be all right. Well, I guess so. God's taken care of you so far.
Incessant prayer on his knees.
He wouldn't do incessant prayer on his knees.
To carry asceticism over into mortification.
He wouldn't carry asceticism over into his life. A certain degree of restraint and discipline, yes, definitely, but not asceticism. And I've been on the regimen of saintly eating for a long time. What's that? Well, I don't eat until 4 o'clock. And I start with cereal, malto meal or wheatina or Maltex. Or a cereal bar. And then go to peanut butter on crackers and with orange juice, and then to a shake. It's a banana, pineapple juice and oatmeal and cashews all blended, and then a trail mix. I'm going to make a new trail mix today. It's going to be apricots, dried apricots, crushed nuts. I think I'll use Brazil nuts, and raisins, and that's enough, I guess. Last time I used coconut also, the trail mix, and then a fresh fruit and vegetable. Well, I thought that's pretty much a regimen of saintly eating, isn't it? But then I go to the Vegetarian Expo at the Egg in Albany, next to the affluent Rockefeller Plaza, and boy does it look Rockefeller. And I see those people there with the most beautiful physiques and figures, and they don't eat anything but fruit and vegetable. Many of them eat raw greens. That's all they eat is raw greens, banana, well, and fruit like bananas. And they do look splendid, and they look like they're going to live until they're 150 years old. It was quite an expo. It was a couple of hundred exhibitors and magnificent speakers from all over the world. Oh, excuse me, all over the United States. And they all spoke in favor of the animals. The suffering that animals are caused in the laboratories, on the farms, and in circuses and other things like that. All the cruelty that goes on to animals. So I'm with them. So I came back and I says, now I'm going to go on to nothing but fruits and vegetables. So I've got to go more so than I have. Like what? Like what? Like what did you eat yesterday? A few slices of cucumber. That's good. Concord grapes. Oh, Concord grapes. Peanut butter on crackers. I made the nut fruit shake. The banana, the pineapple juice, the cashews, and the oatmeal. I put string beans in macaroni. I don't even think they eat pasta. Maybe I should check that out. But I did that because that's what I fed the raccoons at night. It was rotini. Red, blue, white, rotini. You should see those people. Well, I have a record of it. I made a videotape. I videotape 12 hours a day. A regimen of saintly eating. Good. Good. What else did you eat? Corn on the cob. That's good. That's all. I bought $49 worth of fresh fruit and vegetables, including 40 apples for the bulls out in the field, who eventually are going to be ground up. We have to stop this, and they're out to stop it too. Back to Brother Lawrence. We have said that God is so mighty, so powerful, so great, so enormous. In time, 15 billion years, some people say, and others say 11 billion years, others say 12 billion years. You know, what's 2-3 billion years as a margin of error. So God is so vast in time and in space, with galaxies millions of light years away, and light traveling at 186,000 miles a second. Think how far it's going to travel in a year, how many seconds there are in a year. And then this is millions of light years. So God is so vast in space that our little minds today is just too small to comprehend it and to ingest it and to intercept it. We just cannot do it. But we can do happiness. We can see God as happiness, and we can do God as happiness, and we can keep God's company as happiness, can't we? The presence of God, the presence of happiness. What are we talking about now with Brother Lawrence? The presence of God. he developed this presence of God. It's so magnificent. And here he is, a lowly monk working in the kitchen, and people begin to show up. Big people, big educated people of the 1600s, because they wanted that. They wanted that simple practice of the presence of God. How do we translate that? How do we ingest it? The simple practice of the presence of happiness. Yeah. I've said to you before, we've said to each other, it's a terrible thing to let a moment go by that isn't happy. You're not going to see that moment again. So you give it the best. You give it happiness.
Right. For he had schooled his soul until his every intention and every action, quote, his common business, unquote, was addressed to God.
His common business was addressed to God. Our common business is addressed to happiness. A fellow watched the program in Albany and called me up and said he was lonesome. And I told him the solution was to go out and volunteer. I told him to go down to Perry Jones at the Mission Center in Albany, where they take people, homeless people, off of the street, give them showers, give them clean clothes, give them a bed, give them food, give them work. Now he says, I'm not ready for that yet. Why is it, folks, that we turn out to be our own worst enemies?
What we'll do, this making of this microcassette.
Making of this
is God's
microcassette,
business.
we are about God's business. You and I right now
And we
are about
schooling
God's
ourselves.
business.
Every action is addressed to God.
He had schooled himself that every action be addressed to God. I say you and I are about God's business right now. You are helping me be happy. And I'm doing my best, I hope, to help you be happy. Maybe I could do better. Maybe it isn't my best. You want to hear a funny story? This man is on his deathbed. His wife is out in the kitchen baking cookies. The man gets out of his deathbed and he walks into the kitchen and he takes 2 cookies. And his wife slaps him on the wrist and she says to him, "Those are for after the funeral." A funeral director told me that. Brother Lawrence said, and this is really all you have to remember, he said, I have schooled myself to live continually in the presence of God. You and I are schooling ourselves to live continuously in the presence of happiness. We don't let evil in. We don't think evil, we don't see evil, we don't speak evil, we don't hear evil, and we don't do evil. We just stay in the presence of happiness.
Monsieur Beaufort, writing of his character, sums up his virtues in these words. The good brother kept steadfastly in the way of faith, which never changes. He was constant in studying the duties of that station in which God had put him,
A monk.
striving only to excel in discharging these duties.
What is our duty? Our duty is happiness. And what is our joy? Our joy is happiness. And we are discharging that duty and that joy. Would you like to do another minute of serenity? I've asked you before, do you know anybody who has serenity? And you've told me no. And I've told you no. But you and I are going to have serenity. We'll be the first that we know to have it. We're going to have it right now. We're going to have a minute of serenity. And here's how we do it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is a moment of purification. This is a moment of no self. This is a moment of no ego. This is a moment of no desires. This is a moment of no cravings. This is a moment of complete fulfillment. We have penetration into mystic realization. We have penetration into enlightenment, illumination, elucidation. We are ecstatic. We are jubilant. We are exhilarated. We are effulgent. We are filled with the joy of God's grand creation. We don't ask for anything. We have more than we can use. We have ample sufficiency. We have overflowing abundance. This is just a minute of no self, of no selfishness, of no egotism, of no desire, of no craving. This is a minute of 100% happiness. I don't have a clock, do you? Was that a minute? Close enough, huh? We had a minute of serenity. You and I, we can't find anybody who has serenity, but right now you and I had it. Then again, who is Brother Lawrence? He, during the 1600s, there were wars, Protestantism, and the occupation for young people was to go to war. They got paid for it. They got paid to get all shut up. And he did. And along about 58 years old, he had his first mystic experience when he was 18 years old. When he was in the wintertime, he saw a tree completely bare, no leaves, no blossoms, no flowers. And he saw that tree completely bare in the middle of winter. And then he knew what it would look like in summertime. Beautiful flowers, beautiful fruit. And he realized naturally the wonder of God. That was his first transport into the greatness of God. But 58 years old, that would be at least 40 years later, he decided to go give everything to God and go into the monastic life. And he never got any farther than being a scullion in the kitchen, washing pots and pans and cooking and turning over cakes. And that's